Hello and you're very welcome to the Under Center podcast. Dara here with you, and we are previewing week one of the NFL season after so many weeks and months. The NFL regular season is back. We have a full slate of games, and we're going to go through, I think, about two games each, pick out our two games that we think are ones to watch this weekend, two each, and we will go through them and see the areas that are going to be the interesting parts of this game. We should mention as well before we start this show, and every show this season is brought to you by the Backpage Pub in Dublin. That is the place to be for your NFL games every Sunday, including a NFL quiz every month with prizes included, a free pint on arrival if you book a table beforehand. And also, of course, there's tons of great drinks and food, including a hot wings challenge, which include prizes as well, if you can stand the heat. Joining me, I am delighted to welcome Fionn and Al. Lads, how are we? Are we excited for week one?
Oh yeah. Getting a bit giddy, anxious now for the Seahawks, seeing how they're doing.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. We're going to know real quick who's for real and who's not for real this season. I feel like there's a lot of it. More than any other preseason, I feel like every player, every commentator, every analyst we're talking to is like, oh, there's so many unknowns. I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure about that. So a lot of that is going to get solved really quickly in week one. If you're a guy you're not sure of looks pretty poor in week one, you can be guaranteed he's not going to look much better in week 6. So yeah, that's why I'm so intrigued by this first week of games.
Yeah, week one is
For
always
sure.
a bit gut punch for some fan bases. They have their expectations set real high, and then they're brought back down to reality real quick.
Well, that's it, and we mentioned it on another show as well. It is the time of year where every fan base, I guess, is that is most optimistic, where they think every team is going to run the table. And one thing that I see, and look, this is a pet peeve of mine. I'm going to get it out of the way at the start of the show. We've been running our predictions all week on our socials in terms of who's going to make their playoffs and who's going to be standout player, who's going to be Super Bowl matchup, which is all good. But the thing that I hate certain shows that give out the you know record that they think the teams are going to get, and I look at the records and almost every team is ending up above 500, which is not mathematically possible. I don't think they're going like that. Fionn, I know you're a person quite similar to this. You are a fields guy. You go by the eye test. These guys go by the eye test, but they have to know there has to be some maths in it too. And just that's my pet peeve and getting it out of the way. I don't like it. It hurts my brain, and I can't afford to lose that many brain cells. So just guys, come on, do better. That's all. Just all I want. Just do better. Come on. We're all in the same boat here. We're all just trying to convince people we know about the game of football. Let's not give them any ammunition to show that we know absolutely fuck all.
Well, look, sports fans and NFL fans included are never necessarily rooted in reality, are we really, Dara? I mean, we've had several conversations about Washington, about Seahawks, and depending on which angle you come from, it's optimistic, it's pessimistic, it's anything you want it to be, except realistic, I would argue. But yeah, we'll get into it, and we'll see where our predictions land for this week one, and then obviously everyone can follow along our predictions on the social media as well for the long season long predictions as well.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll leave realism for the people in the NFL studios to get paid for this stuff. We'll stay in the the optimistic stage of things. Yeah, I forgot about those predictions that we have to do out this year. That's going to be fun trying to do those images again this year. Did not miss that at all. Al, I'm gonna let you go first now. What is the first game you're looking out for this weekend? And let's have a little bit of a chat about it.
Well, I can't say the Seahawks because that's a bit of a.
Well, we've done a Seahawks preview this week. That's why.
Exactly. So I like the Jags and Colts game. I really want to see how Richardson gets on. He's obviously going to be starting. I think the Colts got some good players in the draft. I think they still have a lot to fix on that team. I think it's going to be a pretty one-sided game. The Jags looked really good last year, and they've only built on that. I really like their draft. But I really want to see how Anthony Richardson does. in preseason. He actually looked ahead of where people were expecting him to. Some of the throws that Anthony Richardson made, I mean, there was one, he hit his receiver in the hands, but he threw it too hard. So it just bounced off the receiver's hands. I think it'll be a fun game to watch. One-sided, but I think this is going to be a fun game to watch, and it'll be a good test for the Colts to see kind of where they are in relation to kind of where they should be.
Yeah, bang on as well. And I think it'd be interesting to see for the Jaguars as well, right? Everyone has them predicting to be at least competing for the division championship this year. I think I have reservations, but I think it's going to tell us a little bit. Like you said, I'm intrigued to see what Richardson can do. It'll give us a bar of how much better the Colts have got over the offseason. And then I think it's a must win for the Jags, right? You set your stall out early, you get the first win done and dusted, and don't have any major issues or major flaws show up on tape. And that's the best you can ask for, right? So that's what I'm expecting out of this game.
Yeah. I'm worried already for the Colts, and I'm kind of worried for Richardson. He's got nothing to throw to. He's got, no one in the backfield to rely on either, with Jonathan Taylor obviously going to be out for the first 4 games at least. The team has not really done much to, make it his transition from college to the NFL, as seamless and as easy as possible, considering I think he only played 13 games in college his whole career too. So he actually hasn't got that many, snaps as you would like probably coming into the NFL season. Yes, he looked good in preseason, but preseason is a totally different beast to, the NFL, actual NFL, and especially coming up against the Jags in a divisional matchup to start off too. The Jags that are buoyed by, by last season, the fact that they obviously came back in that playoff win against the Chargers. Obviously, they lost in the divisional round against the Chiefs in a close one too. Doug Peterson is doing really, really good things there. Trevor Lawrence took the step up last year, expected another step up this year. And one name as well that we haven't mentioned about the Jags coming back, and I think is going to be so dangerous this year, and it pisses me off that I've missed out on him on so many of my fantasy leagues this year. It's Calvin Ridley. He is going to be, I think, I don't know if technically you can class him as comeback player of the year because he was banned. He wasn't.
Well, they gave it to Geno. All he did was be shy.
Yeah, but see, Geno wasn't banned. Geno just didn't play. Yeah, I mean in the sense, like, I don't know you can be classed if you come back from a ban and you do really well. But to be fair, I think Damar Hamlin, if he plays any sort of snaps for the Bills, is instantly comeback player of the year anyway this year. But yeah, he's going to be so dangerous, and the offense itself with Travis Etienne, and now they got Tank Bigsby as well, who I think is going to be a really good compliment. And hopefully Trayvon Walker was the number 1 pick last year. He disappointed probably in the grand scheme of things last season. Hopefully he makes a step up. But that Jags team is actually sneakily good, and going to the Colts against a Colts offense that, was Alex Pierce, and, I know they got Josh Downs, didn't they, in the draft in the 2nd or 3rd round. He's not guaranteed to hit the ground running though either. And, you got Zach Moss as your running back. It's just, I don't know. I don't have a good feeling for the Colts in this one.
Yeah, and I completely forgot about Jonathan Taylor when you were mentioning him there. The way the Colts have handled that, the way Jim Irsay has handled that. I mean, he says he can't afford him, he doesn't want to pay him, then he spends $20 million trying to save a whale that died, as far as I know.
He did die. I shouldn't laugh that he died, but like the fact that he's spending that money on that.
And like then Jim Irsay very loudly proclaiming that running backs have no value, and that if both of them died, they wouldn't be remembered. And then simultaneously asking for a 1st round pick and Jalen Waddle from the Dolphins. Like, it's a comedy show over there, the way they've handled that.
Yeah, messy stuff. My first game of the week choice is going to be quite predictably the Washington Commanders. We get kicked off against the Arizona Cardinals. I'm intrigued about this for two things. One, obviously, it's a great test of Sam Howell. It's the first time we're going to see him play truly competitive football. And I think the Commanders, in the same way my opinion was swayed for the Jaguars, I think the Commanders have to come out and win this game and win it convincingly. And the offense has to look dynamic. I think that has to be the goal for the game. It's going to be a real test of where the Commanders are. And then as you phase back from that, so a win in general, fine, it's a nice start. And then a loss would be catastrophic. And we all go back into our bunkers as Commanders fans and get ready for next season and decide which quarterback is going to be in place. Maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick will come back and do another little stint for us. I don't know. And then on the flip side, I think it's the inverse of the Colts, right? We're saying how much better did the Colts get? And I think this season now in this first game, we're looking how much worse are the Cardinals going to be. All the talk is tanking. And this first season, it's very hard for professional athletes to tank. But this first game of the season is going to be a true test of truly how bad the Cardinals intend to be. Well, intentionally or unintentionally, how they will play this season. So that's why I picked it out, not just because I'm a Commanders fan. I do think there's some interesting storylines going along in that game that will set the tone for both teams for the season going forward.
Yeah, I really like the Commanders. I mean, they do have a lot of talent. They have Terry McLaurin, they have Jahan Dotson, which I think can have a good year this year. If there's, even halfway decent quarterback play, they have, really, really good defensive line. I think, even though they're getting a lot of, praise for their defensive line, I think it's still underrated. And then the Cardinals. I mean, what a mess. Without Kyler, they have Josh Dobbs and who is it that they won't name a starting quarterback?
Clayton Tune.
Yeah, they won't name a quarterback for competitive advantage for week one.
That was so funny. I don't want to give the other team a competitive advantage.
Come on.
It doesn't matter who you start.
You're going to get stumped. The Commanders could walk out without a quarterback and you're still going to get stumped. Just another embarrassing team.
Yeah. I was going to mention that Jonathan Gannon quote. I don't know why, but I feel like this game for the Commanders is a lot bigger than people are making out to be. And for the reasons why I'll explain now, they have this game at home in front of the crowd with their new ownership. I think it's a sellout now as well. There's so much expectation on this team. In turn, now so much expectation on Sam Howell. You win this game, then you can start the season on a great note. You don't win this game, you're going to Denver after it, which I know, Fionn, you're not an easy game, despite, who's the quarterback there. But we don't know what Sean Payton has done with this team in the offseason. Then you're at home to the Bills, which obviously is a very tough game as well. And then you're away to Philadelphia. So not realistically, but there is a chance that if you don't win that first game against Arizona, you could go 0-4 in those first 4 weeks. And then you're at home to Chicago, where that would put even more pressure on the team. I know we're joking about the Cardinals and stuff like that, and that they're tanking and stuff, and which they might be, subconsciously or consciously, we don't know. But I don't know. I think that it's the best opponent and the worst opponent for the Commanders to have week one. Feel.
Yeah, and like I said, the Commanders have to look dynamic as well, right? With this, if the Cardinals team come out and play poorly, you have to take that advantage and take that opportunity to settle and bed in this new offense, if indeed it exists, and get Sam Howell settled. get the offense more explosive, and hone in, treat it like a true preseason game where everyone needs to sharpen up a little bit. Because, like you said, the next run of games is not easy, and it's not about winning. I think the expectation should be for the Commanders to win, but what the hope is, or the goal for the game, has to be a win and clear, clean, decisive offense that moves quickly, that stresses the Cardinals out, and that does not let the Cardinals gain anything defensively. And I don't necessarily mean no good plays, but for them to come off, watch that tape and say, man, we really couldn't do anything particularly effectively against this offense, because the Commanders are going to need it going forward. And it's not the same level of competition, but if you don't have it at that low level, you have to believe, right, that confidence is low in this offense, especially given the talent, most of which was there last season, except under center. So I think in that way, it's about managing expectations, growing egos a little bit, and growing a play style that can really put pressure on more advanced defenses and higher level of skill. So that's why I'll be watching very carefully how the offense performs, not just necessarily the scoreline that goes up or the final W.
Is Chase Young back?
I actually don't know. I don't think he will be available for this game.
Jesus. That is serious in terms of his injury. He didn't play a snap at all last year, did he either?
No, I think if memory serves me right, he played a couple of snaps last season. I don't remember super clearly, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. Nothing I've heard. They're expecting him to have to come back and play well. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure on him. But yeah, I'll have to double check if he's going to be available week 1.
Okay. All right. Right. My first game I'm looking at this week is going to be the number 1 overall pick, and that is Bryce Young, traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons in an NFC South matchup. I'm looking at it because a lot of people, and I'm not going to suggest who on this show, has suggested that the Falcons could actually go all the way and win the division this year.
No chance.
And I don't know
trash.
why they think they can do that with Desmond Ridder as your quarterback. Also, I know it's been cool. He got a new number change, and I know, like, at what stage are we going to say that Kyle Pitts is a bust as well? But seriously,
he's not living up to expectations. I think he's plenty dangerous, but I don't think he
takes a few years as well. Like typically, you're not always going to get your, Travis Kelce's, and even he took a couple of years to really get to where he is.
And you need the bulk of age as well. Like he came out as a kind of a big wide receiver body type. I think it takes a while to transition that. But look, he's certainly not Jamar Chase. And I think the expectation was when he came out that he would be the equivalent to Jamar Chase, only at tight end. He didn't live up to that. But yeah, for me, it's like Desmond Ridder. We're like, what did he do last year? And why are you expecting him to be so much better this year?
Exactly.
But the Panthers aren't going to look any good this year either.
Yeah, like it's so that was me. I picked the Falcons to win the division, and it's not because I think the Falcons. I think they'll be better than people are giving them credit for, but it's just because the NFC South is cheeks, for lack of a better word. It's an awful division. Like anyone could win, and I just think Falcons have some actually good talent there. They have Drake London. They have some, talent on the offensive line. Bijan Robinson is going to come in and be really good. Tyler Algier was really good last year. And they do have some pieces on defense. Do I think they're going to even compete in the playoffs? No. But the NFC South is terrible. It's one of the worst divisions, if not the worst in football right now. So that's why it's not because I think they're an amazing team. I just think it's because that division is awful.
Okay. Now, without looking it up, can either of you tell me who's the backup quarterback in Atlanta?
Is it Heineke?
That's it. Taylor Heineke, the
I mean, world star backup, you got to say. He's
World-
about as
world
good as you
star
want.
backup.
Never going to compete, but when he gets in, I mean, he's not going to lose every game of the season. He'll scrap for you. He's got his limitations, but
it's definitely fun with him in under
Well,
center. Maybe
fun
not
is
for
a
the
bit of
fan
a-
base, but for everyone else watching it, I think it's fun at times. But what week do you give it until they make that change of Desmond Ritter for
4.
Tyler Heineke? Week 4?
Yeah, I think.
Al, are you with Taylor Heineke skeptic or believer, or are you more in the Desmond Ritter's going to make it camp?
If both your quarterbacks are terrible, just stick with one. Stop pretending one's better than the other. Just let one kind of see if you can get a rhythm in it. Because you saw that exact same thing with the Commanders. I mean, just fucking revolving door of quarterbacks. And then Ron Rivera comes out this year and says, I didn't know that Sam Howell was that good. Should have played him more last year.
Well, look,
Like,
I don't think there's
right.
any problem leaving him there, but yeah.
Pick a
The
quarterback,
revolving
stick with
door
him.
is certainly an issue.
Stop changing the quarterback. That's just going to make things worse.
Right. Week 6, the Falcons play at home to the Commanders. That's when Taylor Heineke is going to start. That's it. The Heineke revenge tour begins at home against the Commanders in week 6. That's what I'm
I
going
don't know. He might be at the helm before that.
for.
Fully warmed
Well,
up and ready to go.
Before that, they have obviously Carolina on week 1, then a home to Green Bay, away to Detroit, at home to Jacksonville. Or no, sorry, it's a home game technically in Jacksonville, but it's one of the London games. And then at home to Houston, and then that week 6 matchup against the Commanders. That'd be good. I think that'd be good if you get him under center there for sure. For that game. Al, it swings right round back to you. What's the second game you're looking out for this week?
Next game I'm looking at, bit of a surprising one, but it's mainly for one team, is Bucks at Vikings. So again, I think this is going to be a pretty one-sided game. I think the Vikings are going to go in to this game and embarrass the Bucks. To be honest, I think. I mean, with the addition of I keep getting the receivers mixed up. It was Addison to the Vikings, wasn't it? I think Addison with Jefferson and the tight end that they, again, forgetting his name, they just signed to the big deal, Hawkinson. They have a good defense as well. Not amazing. They certainly had their weaknesses last year, but they were good enough. I think, and Kirk Cousins as well. He's never going to be a world beater, I remember. I remember
It's a bit of an understatement, Al.
I remember having some pretty scathing comments about him last year in a couple games, but I mean, they're good enough where they'll be competitive. Whereas you have the Bucks, who, whether they like it or not, they're in a rebuild now. They've lost a ton of talent. They still have some players who are injured. Their defense is up in the air. Devin White, he requested a trade. He doesn't really want to be there. Vita Vea, he's still very good, but he wasn't like dominant like he had been. And then their offense is, and
Mike Evans wants to leave now.
Yeah. Well, I think they're kind of getting there with the contract, but we'll see about that. And then the main position, you have another just awful quarterback room, Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. Like, you're getting nowhere with those. Mayfield was awful when he played last year. Awful. One of the worst in the league. And Kyle Trask was about the same. The Bucks aren't doing that this year. And this is going to be a really one-sided game. But I'm just going to be watching because I really want to see this Vikings offense, and especially Jefferson and Addison. I think they're going to be ones to watch.
I don't know. Do you not think it could struggle without a run game, given that they don't really have any established running back at the moment? Mattison seems to be the the favorite to be the starter, but we don't know much about him. And the fact that Kirk Cousins definitely thrives under a play action offense, if that run game doesn't threaten people, do you think they could actually struggle regardless of the two boys they have outside? I don't know if we're going to see, as you said, they do have a tight end now, and with two wide receivers, it's a lot of danger in the air. Do you think maybe a philosophy change? But I don't know. I mean, my question, as you guys always know, is can Kirk Cousins get it done when it really needs to? Not during the regular season as he puts together wins. He can certainly do that, but we've seen him time and time again. Playoffs, winning you're in, these kind of scenarios, can he get it done? And in those kind of scenarios, you need a very well-rounded game, because a lot of the time, it doesn't matter what your opponent's record is. There's extra energy, extra pressure on those games, both from the opposition and in your own dressing room. And that can play as much of a part as anything else. So when your team's not rounded, you don't have somewhere to hang your hat on like they did in the running game to really set teams up. I don't know if Cousins has it in him. And again, certainly biased, I'll fully admit that. But that's how I see. If there is going to be a struggle in this first game, that's where it's really going to be interesting to see how that run game looks. If that goes off 100 yards in the first half, then we know that game's going to be a blowout for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right mostly. I mean, I do think Kirk is better than people give him credit for, but like, he is a bit of a baller. Like, you know, big times last year. I still remember that game last year. Like, you know, playoffs on the line, game on the line. You know, it's third or fourth and whatever it was, and he throws the fucking ball behind the sticks, like, you know, and then, you know, immediately tackle for a loss. It's just, he does make some stupid mistakes. The run game isn't a huge concern. Mattison's fine, and then they have Myles Gaskin. I think he's all right. But yeah, you are right about Cousins for the most part.
Well, look,
I like Mattison.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, I like Mattison. I think any time that Dalvin Cook was injured the last few years, Mattison has come in and he's been quite serviceable. I think he's done quite well. Look, with the additions that they have, and having someone like Jefferson there, and having Jordan Addison there now as well to sort of take up the second receiver spot, you know this team is going to be a pass first team, and just to have someone there that can lighten the load with the running back, in terms of like, if they have a gap, he's going to hit it and he's going to get those yards. That's fine. He doesn't need a world beater running back to be there for sure. Actually, one sneaky, I was just having a look at their depth chart, and their defense is kind of sneaky good looking. You know, Danielle Hunter's back this year. They brought in Marcus Davenport from the Saints in free agency. One person, Al, that you really like that they have there, Ivan Pace, that they drafted. Harrison Phillips is a really, really good run defender. And then obviously with the experience of Harrison Smith in the backfield, they brought in Byron Murphy from the Cardinals this offseason too, to replace the retiring, I think he's retired anyway at this stage, Patrick Peterson. So I think they have a sneakily good defense. It's all going to come down to the quarterback play, though. And if Kirk is going to be able to, you know, actually perform to the way that we expect him to. But we've had so many years of being disappointed by him. I don't know if we're the stupid ones at this stage for expecting anything different.
Yeah. Well, my second game for this weekend is going to be the Texans-Ravens. I think for me, in a similar way, it's going to be, how are the Ravens offense going to look? They've got OBJ, they've got Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews coming back. And then what does that running game look like? J.K. Dobbins is going to be there. I believe he's still banged up, though. I don't know if he's full go from week one. I'll have to double check.
No, he is. He's all right. He's all right.
Okay, well, that should be.
Well, he better be. I've drafted him.
That should be interesting to see. I think he's a super talented running back. So I think if they can get that going, it'll be interesting to see what kind of response Lamar Jackson has after signing that big contract. I think he will want to try and prove his arm through the air, but we know how well that went the last time he did it. And that's not ironic that he set out a stall. I think was it last year or the year before, he had like 400 something yards on on the Bengals or something, I believe, or maybe it was the Cardinals. But he set out his stall early, and he really proved that the arm talent is there and it is improving year on year. On the other side of things, it's very intriguing to me who the Texans are. We're not hearing, or at least I'm not hearing, too much about being in the kind of basement with the Rams and the Cardinals, who seem to be out and out bottom feeders this season. And then CJ Stroud, I've heard nothing about him in terms of the young quarterbacks. Certainly heard more about Young, more about Richardson. And so CJ Stroud is a little bit unknown to me. It is more often than not a serious struggle for these young quarterbacks when they come into franchises that are not prepared to take them on. And I mean that in a talent side of things, in a roster talent. I think these players get nurtured and can perform really well when there's lots of talent around. I think we saw that in a certain sense in the Bengals, whereas maybe the talent wasn't jump off the page, but it certainly fitted what they needed Burrow to do in his first year. I don't think the Texans are set up to do that for CJ Stroud. So it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of performance he can cobble together, if at all. And then for us to get an idea of where the Texans are, whether they are drifting down to that kind of bottom three race to the bottom, or if they'll maybe hold some water this year and surface somewhere around the mid pack by the end of the season.
Al, do you want to talk about that first? You're on mic.
Yeah, sorry, had to cough. Yeah, I do. I do like the Ravens. I think they're going to be a really good team this year. They've made some really nice additions, and one I really like in Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham. I think Lamar Jackson will have no shortage of weapons to go to. Mark Andrews as well, as you mentioned them. One or two question marks in their defense, but they're still, they're good enough where I think they'll be able to be a competitive team this year. Yeah, I like the Ravens in this game.
Okay. For the Texan side of things, I know they've had a lot of change. I really like the hire of DeMeco Ryans as the head coach. I think that's very good move. That he's had a really good time in San Francisco, running that defense. CJ Stroud was obviously the big one, but obviously they had the very next pick afterwards, in which they got Will Anderson. It's going to be our first time seeing him in a regular season NFL game. Let's see if he's going to live up to the hype as well. Where I was saying with the likes of Anthony Richardson doesn't have the people to pass to, or doesn't have the people backing him up in Indianapolis, I think with CJ Stroud, he does. He has, Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary as his running backs. Of course, Dameon Pierce coming off a really, really good rookie season, hopefully to push on. You've got, the experience of Robert Woods and Noah Brown in the wide receiver room. Tank Dell, who they drafted as well, seemingly has a good relationship with CJ Stroud. John Mechie is going to be finally starting his NFL career after it was taken away from him last season due to illness. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. They gave the big money to Dalton Schultz in the tight end position, who had a great few seasons just across the way there in Dallas with the Cowboys. And then obviously they have, some really good pieces on defense. I mentioned Will Anderson. We'll have to see with the likes of Derek Stingley coming into his second year after having a fantastic first year. And Jalen Pierre, as in the free safety position, had a fantastic season last season too. They're a little light up front. I think that they need to get a few more depth pieces in. They seem a little light on the defensive side of things. So we'll have to see how that gets on. But I don't think, I'm not expecting them to challenge for a division. I'm not expecting them to make the playoffs, but I'm expecting them to be a lot more competitive than they were last season. And I think that they can make life difficult for Lamar Jackson this Sunday for sure. Not so much that they might win the game, but definitely that they might make a good account of themselves.
Yeah, no, they have some talent there for sure. I think they do have a good future. And they may surprise people this year. But to your point, Fionn, actually earlier, you hadn't heard much about CJ Stroud. All I've seen was from his first preseason game, and he struggled. And they kept him out there for a while, and he continued to struggle. Which, as you said, they're rookies. Very few rookie QBs come into the league and just, start dealing. That's just not the way it works. It's the highest paid and it's the most complicated position for a reason. So I think it'll take a while, if not, the year. I think they should let him get the snaps. But I wouldn't expect much from Stroud this year.
Yeah. And I think also I just seen there that's confirmed that's going to be Josh Dobbs. So you have your competitive advantage now, Fionn, for the Commanders on Sunday. So you know who you're coming up against. You can get ready for Josh Dobbs. Moving on to the last game that we're having a look at this week. And for me, it's going to be the Raiders against the Broncos in Denver. For me, I'm looking at it. I'm going to see which team is the biggest dumpster fire in the AFC West this year. Obviously, the problems that the Broncos had last year. Now they have a new head coach, it's Sean Payton. Sean Payton became a little bitchy, you could say, giving out about former coaches and how it's a shit show and doing that thing that you shouldn't really do when you're a coach, is giving out about other coaches and stuff, Then he said I was still in my pundit mode or something like that when he was talking, which is complete bullshit. But he was just, giving out. I'm guessing he's giving out because he has his hair pulled out by the fact that the team is terrible. I think he told Russell Wilson to stop fucking kissing babies or something like that as well. He told his team on their lack of discipline, because remember, they had the most penalty yardage against ruled against them last year, that they've said that if you make a mistake, you're going running around the facility. I think a lot of lads are doing a lot of laps at the moment. It's not sounding great at the moment coming out of Denver. It's not sounding like, Champagne's come in, he's getting everybody right. We're doing everything that we should be doing last year. I think we're gonna have a great. No, it's like, oh no, we're still terrible. It doesn't matter who comes in as coach. The players are just terrible. Then on the Raiders, you mess over your running back. You don't extend him and give him his 5th-year option. You said you're not going to do that. Then you won't give him a massive contract. You let him go and test the market. Then you realize you don't have a running back and okay, here you go. Here's a pay rise for you, buddy, just to stay with us for another year. Then you have Jimmy G. Jimmy G spends most of the offseason injured because of a shoulder injury that they didn't really actually do their homework on before signing him to a massive contract. Just this week, Chandler Jones can't get into the facility now when they're contacting his ex-girlfriend from like 5 years ago or something like that. Players are saying that they're not going to play for the GM or the head coach. Like, it's a complete shit show coming out of Vegas at the moment. And I don't know if you're going to make everything right by Sunday. I don't know if, especially in that AFC West division where you're going up against the Chiefs and the Chargers got 2 times a year as well. Like, this could be long seasons for both these teams, and it's not great looking at the moment.
No, I feel like that orb LED screen building they have there in Vegas is certainly doing a wincing, squinting type eyeball as opposed to a wide open, excited eyeball at the moment.
It broke because it got wet.
Yeah, well, I mean, they built it in Las Vegas. They probably didn't necessarily need to account for that eventuality. One in a kind of 20-year problem that they're going to have. But hey, look, there's plenty of money floating around Vegas. I'm sure it's easily fixed. But yeah, I think you're right there. I don't have much to add other than it's going to be who's worse off after 2 pretty suspicious off seasons. I personally wanted to be the Broncos because the amount of bullshit that was coming out about how it was definitely, certainly going to be turned around, and also my personal passion that Russell Wilson has truly left the cliff, and probably the ground is now at this point is rapidly approaching. I would also like to see that come to fruition. But yeah, I agree. Just two poor teams that are looking to find out how poor they're going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear in my mind who's like the Raiders are the worst team in that division right now for various reasons, but like mainly like I know none of us here are the biggest fans of Derek Carr, but Jimmy G is not better than Derek Carr. First of all, that offensive line is awful. They lost a bunch of weapons there. They don't have. I know they do have receiver.
They have Davante Adams.
Davante Adams, but they lost Darren Waller and a couple of other guys. Their defense, to say it's suspect, is being a bit generous. Like at least the Broncos have like some players. If Russ, like I don't think Russ is going to make a huge jump back, but best case scenario, if he can manage the offense and be serviceable and stop escaping from perfectly good pockets, they have the talent there. The problem is the receivers can't stay healthy, but if they could, and then their defense, like they actually have a really good defense. They have really good pieces there in the defense, and Pat Surtain is a top 3 corner in the league, and he's not 3. So I don't think the Broncos are going to challenge the Chiefs or the Chargers, but I think it's pretty clear that they are in a much better position than the Raiders right now.
They are. I'm just looking, at some of the names. Like they do have some good pieces. They actually signed Frank Clark. I didn't know they signed Frank Clark.
Yeah.
And
the playoff wonder.
Yeah. I don't think you'll have to worry about that this year. But yeah, no, it's going to be tough for these two teams. Like I said, I do think the Raiders are in slightly worse position than the Broncos, but it's not by a lot. It's not by a lot at all. But look, that's their 6 games that we're looking at this week. Obviously, there's plenty of other ones to look at. We could have mentioned, Aaron Rodgers' debut this week as well. Oh, away. Is he at home to the Bills or away to the Bills? I think he's at home to the Bills in the Monday Night Football.
I can't wait for the Jets to be terrible again. It's just like, it's so annoying. It's the same thing with the Broncos. It's just like, stop overhyping these teams. Like, and especially with Aaron Rodgers, he's 39. Like, and he was horrible last year. Like, if he was good last year, then yeah. But he was horrible with his hand-picked receivers. Like, come on.
The same ones that followed him over to New York as well.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like I started watching the new Hard Knocks series, and to be fair, since probably the one that they did with the Rams and the Chargers together a couple of years ago during COVID one. That was the last one I probably watched fully through, and I had to force myself to do it. It's just, it hasn't been great the last few years. And I couldn't stand with how much they were drooling over Aaron Rodgers in those first few episodes for Hard Knocks. I only watched the first 2. And like even flying out the guy that narrates it, Liv Schreiber, to come out because Aaron Rodgers now plays for the Jets. But like, couldn't be Aaron Rodgers now that he plays for the Jets. And it's like, dude, he's, like you said, he's 39. He played awful last year. What are you expecting? Like, I don't know. I think Robert Saleh is in a lot of trouble if he's putting up all of his eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket, which he looks like he is doing. I think there's going to be trouble there this year, and especially with the New York media scrutinizing everything that Rodgers does. Whew, he's going to lose his head one week, and I can't wait for it. But look, as we're wrapping up this edition of the show, Al, Fionn, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy week 1, and look, enjoy the next 2 weeks, because I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be out sunning myself in Lanzarote. So
nice.
I think the show is going to be in very capable hands. I have no doubt about that. But yeah, my out of office is going to be on. I'm going to have to find somewhere in Lanzarote that shows the NFL, which I'm sure I will. I'm sure I'll find somewhere. All of them have Sky Sports, so if you just want Sky Sports from me, I'll be happy. But that's where we're going to wrap up this edition of the show. If you are looking for somewhere to watch the NFL this Sunday, there is no better place to go to than the Backpage Pub in Dublin. That is who we are partnering with this year. And they are going to have Red Zone on the TVs. They're going to have the main Sky Sports games on the TVs as well. They're going to have a pub quiz this Sunday, especially. Yours truly, the Under Center podcast, are going to be hosting it. So make sure you're there for that. Prizes included for the winners. You're going to have great food. You're going to have great drinks. You're going to get a free drink when you arrive if you book your table online before Sunday. So make sure you do that. Free pint of Budweiser. Also, like I said, they're going to have a Hot Wings challenge as well. There's going to be a lot of events coming up throughout the year. We're really excited to be partnered up with them in such a great location with such great food, drinks, and hospitality as well. But until next time, stay safe, enjoy the games, and we'll see you soon.